Welcome back to another episode of Living in Denver. This video today is for any of you guys out there that are really highly interested in areas like Cherry Creek, but are just getting frustrated and discouraged by the incredibly high prices of real estate. So if that's you, this video is going to be exceptionally special for you, and I'm really excited to share it with you because this area that we're talking about today is not that well known and probably an area that you don't even know about yet. So really excited to share that with you guys. Stay tuned. All right, so as I said, this video today is all about a special, small little area that's really close to Cherry Creek and just Wash Park and all these super popular areas that are expensive and very sought after in Denver, but have a little bit more affordable price points and are just as close to a lot of the great features that the city of Denver has to offer. But before we get started, all that info that you see down below, I would love to connect with you. So feel free to shoot me a text, give me a call, or shoot me a quick email, and let's connect. You know, regardless of if you're trying to move to Denver now, maybe you're just considering Denver as an option for the future, I don't care what it is, I would still love the opportunity to connect with you. And I guarantee there's a few things that I can provide you with to add value and help you with that decision. As a 40+ year Colorado native, I know there's a few things I can share with you. So I'm looking forward to connecting with you. But I'm sure by now you're excited to find out what is this neighborhood that I'm talking about that's so special and unique and maybe not that well known. The neighborhood is called Hale. The Hale neighborhood is a very small little area, and I'll pull up a Google map just so you can see the borders of what make up Hale. But what I love about this area is, again, it is super close to a lot of the very expensive, some of the most expensive areas in Denver. So Cherry Creek, Wash Park, there's a lot of areas that Hale is right around and really in some cases bordering, yet the price points are significantly lower. And you can definitely find some options here if what's really important to you is having that centralized location, potentially with some walkability, or at least with some very short commutes to get to places like downtown Denver, as well as some of the most popular parks and just attractions in the city, such as Wash Park, City Park, and one of my newer favorite places, which is South Pearl Street. I'm going to do a whole separate video on that, so stay tuned. But for today, again, we're going to talk about the Hale neighborhood. So to share with you a quick couple pros about the Hale neighborhood, I already shared a little bit of one already, which is the affordability in comparison to places like Cherry Creek and Wash Park. But also what I really like about Hale is the proximity to healthcare services. So if that's really important to you, this could be a neighborhood that you really want to put on your radar. Rose Medical Center is one of the best hospitals and medical centers in all of Colorado, and it is located right here in the Hale neighborhood. I actually had a prior job to selling real estate where I was helping build up a portfolio of multifamily, which are, small and medium-sized apartment buildings. And we actually purchased one right here in the Hale neighborhood that was across the street from a lot of the medical centers, and a lot of our residents, a lot of our tenants in these apartments were actually people that either worked in the medical field or were people, in some cases maybe a little bit older, or just people that wanted to have that direct access to medical services. And they saw a lot of value in the proximity to these medical centers and services, where that was enough of a reason for them to choose this specific neighborhood to live in. Now, not only does Hale have a great location when it comes to proximity to these medical services, there's also a ton of great shopping and just other retail centers and convenience all around the Hale area. Colorado Boulevard has a ton of great options, and Colorado Boulevard pretty much skirts the entire western side of Hale. Now, Colorado Boulevard has always been an area that's got a ton of great shopping and just different restaurant options, bars, all that good stuff. But what I wanted to share specifically with you on this video is a newer development just over the last few years, which is known as 9 and CO. So a lot of times when you look it up online, it'll be literally the number 9, the plus symbol, CO, and that's just a short abbreviation for 9th in Colorado Boulevard. This also used to be some buildings that were connected to the medical field, now been converted into a really, really cool mixed-use space where there are some really nice high-end luxury apartments, condos, some really good restaurants and stuff on the ground level, and just overall a really cool area that has nice walkability. So this is something to definitely put on your radar if you do consider Hale as a potential neighborhood to look for homes. I would also compare some of these streets in the Hale neighborhood sort of to like the Wash Park vibe. And what I mean by that is you'll see a lot of the homes in the Hale area are going to be these single-story bungalows. A lot of them were built in the 30s, 40s. They're literally probably close to 100 years old, if not sometimes a little bit older than that. So they're going to be older homes, typically on a little bit smaller of a lot that's a little bit more deep, but not that wide. So only potentially a few feet on either side of the home, but they are usually quite deep. And many of the streets in this area have what's known as a carriage type home, basically just meaning that the garages are sharing an alley between the two streets. So let's just say, for example, you got, 9th and 10th Street, homes on both of those streets. In between, you're going to have alleys where every home on 9th and 10th both share the same alleyway where you can have access to your garages. I actually have a client right now where I'm helping them look for homes in this area, and we've been talking a lot about the pros and cons of this style of home. A pro for having the garage in the back of the house is it's a little bit more aesthetically pleasing to see the fronts of everybody's homes without a garage. Usually garages come with, junk, cars parked in front of the garage, just excess stuff. So that's sometimes a negative when people have, garages on the front of their home. So what's nice with the Hale neighborhood is almost every street, again, has the garages on the back side of the home. So that's a positive. However, a negative, and one of the reasons my client is kind of on the fence on whether or not he likes this, is because sometimes you have a little bit higher potential for crime and theft when you don't have your garage in the front and it's a little bit more obscure and maybe not looked at quite as often, where people could potentially, sneak in and steal something or just break into your back of your house. So, this is obviously something that is totally, dependent on a lot of other factors, but that's just something I wanted to point out when it comes to the Hale neighborhood and the style of homes with typically the garages on the back side of the house. And I'll also share a few negatives or just cons about the Hale neighborhood specifically. And the first one is just going to be there's very limited nightlife, and really the dining options are going to require you to drive. So walkability is definitely nothing like it is in areas like Wash Park or especially in Cherry Creek North. But you are so close to these areas that it really is only a quick drive, or what I actually prefer to do is just take an Uber. A lot of these areas that you're trying to commute to, if you want to go out to dinner, let's just use Cherry Creek North as an example. If you're going there before 7 p.m., you're going to have to pay for parking. It's pretty tight and, limited on parking availability. So rather than driving and having to, fight traffic and cars and figure out where you're going to park, for a $15, maybe even less than that in some cases, Uber or a Lyft ride from Hale, since it is so close, you're really able to benefit because of the proximity and just really leverage the shared transportation like Lyft and Uber and just go to the different areas that are a little bit more dense, like Wash Park and Cherry Creek, just using, Lyft and Uber. Another negative for some, especially if you're considering buying a home in the Hale neighborhood, is just the older homes. So again, a lot of these homes are pushing 100 years, maybe even a little bit more. When you're looking at homes that are that old, you have some different variables that you might not have had to consider before if you're used to living in more, new construction communities or just homes that have been built, since 1975 and newer. So with these older homes, you are going to run into sometimes to some different challenges. They have a lot of charm when you have these older bungalow style homes, but the cost to renovate can be significantly more expensive. And a lot of times, if they do have a lower level, a basement, a lower level of the home, what I found, especially when showing my clients homes in these areas, is the ceilings tend to be significantly lower than what you're expecting in newer construction homes. And a lot of times, maybe only 6'6" to 7 feet tall. So even myself at only about 5'8", I even feel sometimes in these homes a little bit, tight on the low ceilings, a little bit claustrophobic. So if that might be you, that's something also to consider. Or if you're, somebody that's maybe a little bit taller, 6 foot plus, you might also really notice this just by the fact that you might almost be touching the ceiling when you go to these lower levels. So, when you buy an older home, there are some, unique little quirks, that being one of them. Also, if you do decide to do any sort of renovations, there might be additional expenses incurred just because there are some codes and different building requirements that you're going to have to kind of follow if you do plan on, renovating and improving your existing home that you buy in a place like Hale. And then one other con, or just something that could be a negative for some, is, Hale is also still seeing a lot of development and improvement, just like pretty much everywhere else in Denver is. So, I don't think Hale is any more unique or seeing more of this than a lot of the other surrounding neighborhoods. But you're definitely going to have a fair amount of this going on, especially along Colorado Boulevard, where you're just continuing to improve this part of Denver, including that 9th in Colorado that I had mentioned earlier. So, this is something that you're going to find pretty much anywhere in Denver, so I don't want to really make too big of a deal out of this one. But Hale is definitely an area that is such a close proximity to downtown Denver and literally is bordering other really popular areas like Wash Park and Cherry Creek, that demand for places in Cherry Creek and Wash Park and even Capitol Hill, it slowly pushes that demand out and affects the neighboring areas such as Hale, Montclair, Hilltop. There's a lot of really cool areas that are all around those more popular, well-known spots that are also feeling the pressure of construction and just improvement to the area. So a couple positives, couple negatives, things just to at least consider when it comes to this Hale neighborhood. One last thing before I close out on this video, I also want to share with you some of the really cool streets that you can appreciate the architectural styles in the Hale neighborhood, as well as some of these others all around this part of Denver. This early 1900s Tudor style homes, as well as mid-century modern. These are some of my favorite styles of homes and definitely have so much character and just a unique look to the homes. You can't find homes like this in every part of Denver. Denver really does have these different pockets of styles of homes. If you go down south to places like Highlands Ranch, even in Littleton, Parker, Castle Rock, you're going to find much more newer construction homes that don't have nearly the level of character as places like the Hale neighborhood has. So, if you're somebody that likes to go out and just explore the different streets, maybe take your dog out for a walk after work, or just, get a little exercise in the evening before it gets dark, if that's something you really enjoy doing, I really think you would like that in Hale, because every street has its unique little characteristics to it and just a lot of really cool homes to check out. I also love another park that is very accessible to the Hale neighborhood, obviously Wash Park and Cherry Creek that I've talked about earlier, but another one that has incredible views of downtown Denver, a lot of times with the Rocky Mountains behind it, is City Park. And City Park is an area that I think is not nearly as well known as Wash Park, but has some of the best views in all of Denver. Again, because you have that unique ability to see the skyline with the mountains behind it. And since City Park is quite a large footprint, you have a lot of open space in front of the city where you have just really cool, unique views of downtown Denver. And since so many parts of Denver are getting developed and there's less and less open space, I think City Park has, again, a really unique style to it because of this nice expansive open space with really pretty visual backgrounds behind it. So definitely, if nothing else, I would love for you just to check this part of Denver out. So next time you're out here, shoot me a message. I would love just to take you on a quick little tour. Maybe we could grab a beer after, or if it's in the morning, maybe grab a cup of coffee and just share with you some of these cool little streets that have some of these exceptionally unique and special views. All right, so hopefully you guys got some value out of this today. I really think that Hale is a great spot in Denver. Again, if you're looking for that close proximity to the more well-known and popular areas like Wash Park, Cherry Creek, City Park, it's definitely an area that's not as well known, but is becoming more and more popular, and definitely an area that I think is worth at least a look. So if you guys are curious, feel free to reach out. And don't forget, hit that like and the subscribe button. It's down below. I release new videos every single week. I really work hard on trying to provide different styles of videos, different perspectives on parts of Denver, and really give you a full overview of everything that this great city has to offer. And if you haven't yet, make sure you check out my website. The link is down below, adamsilsdenver.com. I have a really informative, interactive map that has over 22 areas, all in Denver. Each of these you can click on and pull up all sorts of additional information when it comes to schools, restaurants, walkability, real estate that's available currently in those areas, and some additional video resources to really give you a complete understanding of every possible area in Denver to consider if you are moving out here to the Mile High City, Denver, Colorado. Hope you guys got some value out of this video on a lesser known area, the Hale neighborhood. Hope you guys have a great rest of your week. Can't wait to share an all new episode of Living in Denver with you. Stay tuned and I'll see you then. Bye.